Are you tired of hiding your smile? Maybe it's time to get some help from G4 by Golpa. Their talented technicians specialize in creating brand new permanent teeth in just 24 hours. With as few as 4 titanium implants, you can enjoy a fully customized bridge for your upper and or lower set of teeth. You can have peace of mind knowing that the G4's experienced lab technicians have designed more than 15,000 new smiles. You can have a new smile that looks, feels, and functions just like natural teeth. Patients from all over the world travel to G4 to get their permanent smiles in just 24 hours and change their lives forever. Booking an appointment has never been easier. Simply visit yourteeth.com today and schedule your appointment with G4 by Golpa. Mention this podcast when you book to save $1,000. So what are you waiting for? Get ready to show off your new, confident smile with G4 by Golpa. Visit yourteeth.com today and start your journey to a new, permanent smile in just 24 hours. G4 by Golpa. Powered by technology. Inspired by patience.
En Academy Sports and Outdoors nunca ha sido más fácil conseguir el equipo deportivo y los artículos para actividades al aire libre que buscas para divertirte más. Compra en Academy.com o en la app de Academy y obtén envío gratis en la mayoría de los pedidos. Encuentra grandes marcas a los mejores precios solo en Academy.
News Radio 700 WLW.
Rock the economy, who understands it? Certainly not the two of us, but it's on top of everybody's mind right now.
Yes, and the Fed is expected to have yet another rate hike coming tomorrow, I believe in the neighborhood of 0.25%. And this has been happening over what? This is the 10th time in the past year that the rates have been hiked, which has been, it hurts a lot of people. So, obviously it's to drive inflation down, but we're helping in one way, it hurts in another way.
Well, let's talk to our financial guy about it, our good friend Stephen Patterson. He is a financial strategist and director of client relations for KeyCity Capital. And Stephen, first off, welcome back to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
And so, Stephen, explain what we're looking at here, because Rock and I were talking about the cause and effect of stuff like this rate hike tomorrow. What can that cause? What can it do to, the common man and woman's interest rate to buy a house, car, whatever the case might be? What are we looking at here?
Yeah, no, Rocky's spot on. I mean, it's the 10th hike over the last year, probably going to be another quarter point. So that's 525 basis points of increases over the last 13 months. It's probably the fastest we've seen it in the history of the Fed. And the harm it causes is money gets more expensive, right? So when you go take out a mortgage, when you go buy a car, when you use your credit card, the interest rates on all of those things are going to be much higher. The idea behind it is when money is more expensive, people spend less of it. So you're not borrowing to buy that new car. You say, you know what, let's see if we can make this one last a little longer before we go get that loan. Or, you know what, let's not sell the house that we financed at 3% to buy the new house at 7%.
Right.
And so that what that does is it creates a drag on the economy, which then tamps down the inflation.
I mean, is that the only way to tamp inflation down? It seems to me there's other things you can do, but that's a kind of a painful way to do it.
Yeah, it's the way the Fed can do it. One of the things that we're seeing, and you guys, I'm sure you probably talked about some of these bank failures that have been going on.
Right. I was going to ask you.
First Republic Bank this week, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just bought out by JP Morgan Chase, right? Lending becomes more restrictive. So lenders can start requiring a higher credit score, or they can start requiring greater amounts of deposit, right? So if you want to buy that car, it's not 10% down, it's 25% down, things of that nature. And that'll also create a drag on the economy. But the tool that the Fed has is these interest rate increases, which, you probably talked about this some, is it going to be a hard landing or a soft landing? Is a term that you hear a lot when they're talking about that. Is they're saying that, are we going to go into a full-blown recession where people lose jobs and we go into a 6 to 18 month period of economic hardship, or can they smoothly land it like the Volcker Fed did back in '94 under Clinton? The verdict's still out. We're starting to see unemployment go up a little bit. We're seeing wage growth start to slow. We're seeing fewer job postings out there. So, I mean, there's no doubt that the job markets are tightening. But, will we see full-blown recession? That remains, we're not there yet. We don't know.
So, again, we're talking, things are going to increase, mortgage rates, credit card rates, auto loans, student loans, all that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
And now mortgage rates are around what, like 6.5%, 7%?
Yeah, 6.5%, 7%. It's a good number.
I mean, which is, a far cry from 2 years ago during COVID when everybody, hopefully, refinanced to the tune of about, 2.5% to 3%. So that's a pretty steep hike. Is this correct? The average credit card rate is 20% right now?
Oh, absolutely.
God.
It's actually I've seen numbers a little higher, about 21.5.
Wow.
But look, let's talk about real numbers for the average family, right? A year ago, you could have financed, put 20% down on a $400,000 mortgage, and financed it out at 3.5%. Okay, so let's go forward now. Talk about 4% higher, right? You're talking about 7% now. That's about $900 a month.
Wow.
Difference in payments.
Yeah.
So when you start looking at that next purchase, it's significantly steeper than the environment we've been in for the last 10 to 15 years coming out of 08, 09. We know what kind of pain that was. So when you see these interest rates increasing at the pace and at the scale that these have, it will have a dramatic impact on the average American household, no question.
Stephen Patterson is our guest. And Stephen, I remember in the 08, 09 period you're talking about when they were, it seemed to me people kept doing what they're doing now. Are we going to have a recession? Are we entering a recession? What's going on?
Recession? Yeah.
Right. And then all of a sudden people are like, well, we were always in a recession. Now we're coming out of it. Now, is that what we're seeing right now?
I would argue we are. Just looking at the stock market, I would tell you that we've been in a recession now for the better part of 6 months. Is it, does it check all the boxes of the definition, 2 successive quarters of negative GDP growth and all of that. But if you look, the S&P 500's off, this time last year, you're off about 15% from where you were, maybe a little more, depending on the day. I think real wage numbers aren't as strong as that are being reported. I think, you've seen layoffs in the tech sector. You've seen layoffs in the transportation sectors. When I look at those numbers, I'll tell you, I think we've been in a recession for a while, maybe not checking all the boxes of the traditional definition, but just the reality. And then, just your cost of groceries. When groceries are up 10%, right? So, if you're a typical family of 4 and you're spending $800 a month in groceries, $200 a week, that grocery bill's gone up $80. This summer, I think you're going to see some pretty significant spikes in gas prices. I mean, we're already seeing that price at the pump rise. That'll affect every good and service you buy because diesel got that to your door. Diesel got that to your grocery store. Diesel harvested that crop in the field, right? So, inflation I don't think is over, and I don't think it can all be controlled with interest rates. We've got to have an efficient energy policy. We've got to have a steeper interest rate to tamp some of this down, but it's not going to solve all of it. Some of this is supply-based. Just meeting the needs and the demands. There are a number of factors leading to the problem we're in. And, there's a big issue right now going on in Washington that we all need to be aware of on this debt ceiling vote that's coming up. They're saying June 1st, the federal government runs out of money. Well, why that's important is if the federal government can cut some spending, that will certainly help inflation as well. And that's the fight that's happening.
Government cut spending? Come on, Steve. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's unthinkable, isn't it? I mean, you know, how dare we even broach the thought?
Yes.
But, you know, when people ask me, you know, a lot of times, you know, much like what we're doing right now, hey, what are the tools that can solve this problem?
Yeah.
Well, there's a big one right there. Government spending and efficient energy policy could go a long way to us seeing these interest rates come down some.
Right. I mean, the energy policy to me is the biggest and frankly the easiest one. I mean, let's open up the fuel and oil production here in America, because like we're just kind of doing it in a roundabout way. We're saying, you know, the administration gets the benefit of saying we're shutting down all this drilling, yet we're buying the oil from Russia or Saudi Arabia and getting it. Who cares how it gets here? It's still the net effect on the environment, but they get kind of a little, you know, merry-go-round sort of scenario with it. That would be the easiest way, in my opinion. But I think it's tough right now. It's kind of like the suckiest of periods, because we're doing all this rate hike to drive inflation down, but I mean, when's inflation going to go down? Like, it's right now we're getting the worst of both of it.
No, it is, and I'm going to give you a daunting number, and this is important for everybody to get their mind wrapped around. Core inflation strips out food and energy, right? So two pretty big bills in the average household, all right? But it includes everything else. In July of 22, it was at 4.7%. In March of 23, it's at 4.6. So even with all these rate hikes, we still haven't seen core inflation go down significantly. Wow. So when the Fed's saying they want to see an inflation rate of 2%, we're a long way from that, guys. We're a long way from that. Now, can we continue to see these type of rate hikes? I mean, sure, we could. I don't know that that's sustainable. I mean, the economy will crater at some point if they continue down this path. But I think it's very likely that these rates remain at this level for a prolonged period of time to try to tamp this down. And government spending really has to be addressed if you want to see these numbers move.
Last question from me, and maybe I don't know if you know this or not, but there's everyone. I think a lot of people saw the headlines that starting in May 1st, the administration was going to take people with good credit scores, I believe of 720 or higher, and add money to their payments to pay for the irresponsible people whose credit scores are not very good. Explain that dynamic and what that means.
Yeah, so it's since the early 90s, there's been this initiative from the federal government to create opportunities for home ownership in low economic communities and underserved communities. I mean, on its face, not a bad plan at all. Home ownership is a pathway to wealth, no question about it. The problem is where the banks assess a loan based on risk. And if you have a lower credit score, if you have a lower income, then they look at that and they say, well, that's a riskier loan. So there's a greater charge in form of interest rate. So what the Biden administration's done is said, well, if you have good credit, you can afford to pay a little more, and we're going to subsidize that loan for someone with bad credit so that they can actually get into a house. It's a bad idea. This is not a lot different than what we saw created in the early 2000s, which ultimately wound up leading to the 08-09 housing crisis with all the subprime mortgages. Mm-hmm. I mean, all we're doing is repackaging the same bad idea and figuring out a way to pass that cost on to people that have focused on their credit or that have higher incomes. And it's wealth redistribution all over again. I don't see it ending any better than it did in 08-09 if this actually goes through. And what's been really remarkable from my side, watching things is they're getting some pretty strong criticism from both sides of the aisle on this. I mean, there's even Democrats coming out saying this is a bad plan. I think that he's really got to rethink this, and I think it's going to put some people that really shouldn't be in a 30-year mortgage into one that ultimately leads itself to financial hardship for all of us.
With that, Stephen, we will let you go,
Thanks
buddy.
for all the great news, Steve. Appreciate it.
Oh, really, man? God.
Boy. Whew.
Well, everybody needs a ray of sunshine.
Yeah, well, you're our ray of sunshine.
Thanks
Steven.
for bringing it,
Thank
buddy.
you.
Have a great day, guys.
Good stuff, man.
Stephen Patterson. That is good stuff.
Is it pop or is it soda? Caramel or caramel? Is a flip-flop acceptable anywhere but the beach? People can't seem to agree on anything these days except this. A delicious 100% premium beef Nathan's Famous hot dog. Nathan's Famous. Get along famously.
No one likes to talk about money, but everyone wonders if they're doing the right things with their money. Am I saving enough? Can I buy a house? Am I paying too much in taxes? Will I be able to retire? There's no easy way to understand how you're doing. Not knowing is limiting your potential. What if you could unlock insights about your finances in less than 5 minutes, with a clear picture of where you stand today and where your money can work harder? Now you can, with a free financial wellness score from Facet.com. This isn't a boring retirement calculator. It's a simple way to know if your finances support the life you want to live. Haven't you waited long enough? Take the first step toward reducing your stress about money and reaching your full potential. Visit Facet.com to take the free quiz and get your financial wellness score today. That's Facet.com. This ad is sponsored by Facet. Facet Wealth Incorporated is an SEC registered investment advisor. This is not an offer to buy or sell securities, nor is it investment, legal, or